truth finally walks into the room, every lie starts sweating. Chosen ones. This is exactly what just happened to the people who tried to bury your name. They went on a full investigation tour, questioning friends, family, co-workers, neighbors, even people who barely knew your birthday, hoping someone, anyone, would hand them a reason to justify their jealousy. But instead of collecting evidence against you, they accidentally collected glowing reviews, like they were running a survey for Employee of the Universe. Every person they asked said the same thing: you were the best. And now these same people are sitting there looking confused, embarrassed, and spiritually dizzy, like someone unplugged their plan midway and they forgot the script. Here's a fact that makes their situation even more hilarious. Studies show that when people lie about someone, their brain becomes more anxious when the truth around them doesn't match the story they rehearsed. Meaning your haters aren't just embarrassed, they're neurologically malfunctioning right now. Their minds are glitching like a cheap radio trying to pick up a signal in a thunderstorm. Because here's what they didn't expect. Your character had already circulated. Your energy had already spoken for you. Your value had already been witnessed in places their jealousy couldn't reach. So when they went fishing for flaws, people handed them compliments instead. When they went searching for the real you, they discovered the real them, bitter, confused, and horribly outnumbered. And the funniest part? They walked into those conversations with the confidence of someone expecting applause, only to walk out with the emotional posture of a melting ice cream cone. This is the part of the story where their lies crumble under the weight of your truth, publicly, painfully, and poetically. Now sit back, chosen ones, because what happens next will make everything they tried to destroy stand as evidence of who you've always been: consistent, respected, and unforgettable. Let's get into it. Number 1, they tried to use public opinion as a weapon, but public opinion became your proof instead. They really thought they had a strategy. They were convinced that if they whispered the right lies to enough people, it would create a wave big enough to drown your name. They expected others to instantly believe their version of you, as if people were waiting for a reason to doubt you. In their minds, public opinion was the sharpest weapon they could use against you. But they miscalculated something crucial. People already had their own experiences with you, and those experiences didn't match the story being pushed. So when they went around trying to expose you, the people they questioned didn't react with suspicion. They reacted with confusion. They remembered your consistency, the way you handled pressure, the way you treated others, the way you carried yourself without needing attention or drama. These were the memories people drew from when they responded, not the bitterness that your haters hoped to spread. And every compliment, every respectful remark, every testimony of your character was another hit against their narrative. Their plan fell apart because it depended on people having nothing positive to say about you. But instead they discovered that you had earned a quiet respect that stretched further than their gossip ever could. People spoke about how you move differently, how you mind your business, how you don't participate in nonsense, how you carry a calmness that makes others feel safe. These truths were already rooted in people's minds, long before anyone attempted to corrupt your image. The real shock to them was how quickly the tables turned. They wanted validation for their bitterness, but all they got was confirmation of your greatness. And as they collected these responses, each one felt like a personal defeat. They realized that the crowd they tried to recruit wasn't on their side, not because people feared them, but because people genuinely respected you. That's the part that stung the most. Their attempt to destroy you became a public demonstration of your reputation. Without you saying a word, the truth handled the situation. Public opinion didn't bend toward negativity. It bent toward the version of you people already knew firsthand. And the more they asked around, the more foolish they looked, because the evidence they tried to weaponize ended up becoming the proof of who you really are. Number 2, they didn't know you had a reputation built in rooms. Their lies could never enter. The problem with the people who tried to smear your name is that they assumed everyone thought on their level. They thought their bitterness was universal, as if the whole world was secretly waiting to join them the moment they decided to throw dirt on you. What they didn't realize is that your name had already traveled into places they had no access to. Your character had been building interest long before their jealousy began forming complaints. Your reputation wasn't shaped by gossip, it was shaped through years of consistency, humility, and the quiet way you showed up for people. The rooms that respect you are filled with individuals who judge based on behavior, not emotions. These are the types of people who observe before speaking, who value actions over accusations, who pay attention to patterns rather than outbursts. And the truth is, your pattern has always been solid. Your enemies didn't know that the same people they approached were people who had watched you navigate life with a level of maturity they themselves can't fake. So when they took their lies into those higher spaces, they were stunned by the responses they received. They expected nods of agreement, but instead they were met with people who defended you without hesitation. People who had nothing to gain from praising you still spoke well of you. People who barely interact with you still had something respectful to say. That's when your haters realized your influence wasn't built on popularity. It was built on trust. They underestimated the reach of your character. They didn't know that some people speak highly of you even in your absence, not because you're perfect, but because your spirit leaves a mark. There are individuals who admire your discipline, your resilience, your self-control, your refusal to get dragged into nonsense. These are the rooms their lies were never qualified to enter. So while they were trying to bring your name down, they accidentally highlighted the truth. Your reputation was protected by voices that don't waver, and their attempts only showed them something humbling. Your credibility exists on a level they can't touch. Number 3, they forgot that people. They tried to manipulate, had their own eyes, memories, and experiences of you. One of the biggest mistakes your haters made was assuming everyone would blindly accept whatever story they tried to push. They approached people as if they were empty containers, ready to be filled with their bitterness. What they didn't consider is that people already knew you. They had interacted with you, watched how you carried yourself, observed how you handled difficult situations, and paid attention to the way you talked to others. These memories didn't just disappear because someone desperate for validation showed up with a tale. People remember how someone makes them feel. They remember the moments when you treated them with respect, when you weren't petty, when you didn't join unnecessary drama, when you did the right thing even if no one was watching. These real-life experiences stand stronger than any rumor. So when your enemies tried to manipulate others, they were talking to individuals who had their own archive of you, an archive that didn't match the negativity being presented. And this is where your haters got exposed. Every time they spoke badly about you, people quietly compared the lie to the truth they had already seen. They thought they were being persuasive, but all they did was reveal their own insecurity. Instead of planting doubt about you, they created doubt about themselves. People began to notice the bitterness in their tone, the exaggeration in their words, the tension in their body language. The more they spoke, the more obvious it became that their version of you was coming from a place of jealousy, not reality. What they failed to realize is that relationships, even simple ones, are built on patterns, and your pattern has never been reckless, disrespectful, or unstable. Your consistency made people immune to manipulation. They couldn't be convinced to hate someone who had never given them a reason to. That's why your enemies ended up frustrated and embarrassed. They tried to rewrite people's memories, not realizing those memories were built from first-hand truth. In the end, they weren't fighting your reputation. They were fighting what people already knew. Number 4, when they questioned others about you, they accidentally exposed how obsessed they are. They thought they were being subtle. They thought their concerned tone, their forced calmness, and their fake curiosity made them look reasonable. But the more they questioned people about you, the more they revealed something they never wanted anyone to see. They are deeply obsessed with you. Their attempt to investigate you ended up becoming an investigation into their own behavior. People picked up on it immediately. Every time your name came up, their eyes lit up a little too fast, their voice tightened a little too much, and their questions dug a little too deep for someone who supposedly doesn't care about you. The energy didn't match their words. They claimed they were just trying to understand you, but their intensity told a completely different story. And even those who didn't know the full situation could sense something was off. The more they asked around, the more people started noticing that this wasn't normal curiosity. It was fixation. It was the kind of fixation that exposes emotional investment, hidden jealousy, and unresolved resentment. Their obsession became so obvious that people stopped focusing on you and started analyzing them. Suddenly, you weren't the subject of the conversation, they were. What they didn't understand is this. When someone tries too hard to pull another person down, it says more about the person doing the pulling. People began to question their motives. They began to wonder why your life mattered so much to them. They began to see the cracks in their composure. The more they talked, the more they exposed an uncomfortable truth. You live in their mind, rent-free, and you never even asked for a room. Their questions didn't make anyone suspicious of you. They only made people suspicious of why they cared so much. Their obsession became the punchline. Their envy became the storyline. And their bitterness became the evidence. In trying to make you look questionable, they confirmed what everyone silently suspected. They are competing with someone who isn't even playing the same game. They exposed their obsession without anyone forcing them to, and now they can't take it back. Number 5, their biggest fear came true. People they trusted privately admire you. They truly believed that everyone around them secretly agreed with their bitterness. In their minds, their circle shared the same resentment, the same envy, the same low opinions they tried to project onto you. They were confident that the moment they brought your name into the conversation, their so-called supporters would eagerly join in, validate their feelings, and help tear you down. But what they didn't expect was the exact opposite. When they started questioning their friends, family, or close associates about you, the responses they received didn't match the hate they were hoping to hear. Instead of complaints, they got compliments. Instead of criticism, they heard respect. Instead of confirmation, they received admiration. And the shock on their faces said everything. It wasn't just that people liked you, it was the way they spoke about you. Calmly, confidently, without hesitation. That level of honesty unsettled them more than anything else ever could. Some people spoke of your kindness. Others praised your work ethic. Some admired your discipline or the way you mind your business. A few even mentioned how you carry yourself with a type of grace or strength that's rare. Hearing this made them uncomfortable, because it forced them to face a reality they never prepared for. The people they trust don't view you through the same distorted lens they do. Their circle wasn't secretly hating you. They were silently respecting you. This is where their world began to crack. They realized that the envy they felt wasn't shared. They realized that the negativity they carried wasn't contagious. They realized that the dislike they tried to recruit others into didn't spread. And the hardest part for them to swallow was the simple truth that even their closest allies didn't see you as the problem. They saw them as the one overreacting. It shook them because it exposed their insecurity. It revealed that the stories they told themselves about you were not universal truths, just personal grudges. Their circle didn't echo their jealousy, it echoed your character. And once they heard how highly people spoke of you, it became clear that their biggest fear had come alive. The people closest to them think more of you than they ever thought possible. Number 6, their plan failed. Because people respect what you survived, not what they fabricated. They spent time crafting lies, confident that a few dramatic stories could rewrite the narrative of your life. They believed their gossip, their half-truths, and their exaggerations would overshadow what you had genuinely endured. They assumed people would be dazzled by their words and forget the real work, the real challenges, and the real resilience that defined you. What they didn't realize is that people pay attention to consistency, endurance, and history. They can recognize when someone has truly walked through storms and come out stronger. Every interaction, every decision, every trial you faced left a mark on those who witnessed it. Your strength wasn't performative, it was quietly measured and persistent. People noticed how you handled setbacks without needing validation, how you carried on when others faltered, how you rebuilt when circumstances tried to pull you down. Every small victory, every silent endurance, every time you stayed true under pressure, became part of a record that no one could fake. When your detractors tried to overwrite that record with their stories, the contrast was undeniable. Their lies didn't just fail, they highlighted their desperation. People could feel the difference between words that were lived and words that were invented. Every attempt to diminish your history of survival backfired because your reality had substance, weight, and credibility that couldn't be erased. The very things they sought to erase, the sweat, the scars, the patience, the persistence, were the same things that demanded respect. People weren't impressed by what was claimed. They were impressed by what was proven. In the end, their scheme only confirmed the truth. People respect authenticity over fabrication. They respect someone who has faced challenges, endured pain, and rebuilt themselves. Lies and exaggerations collapse in the face of genuine life experience, and that is exactly what happened here. The more they tried to control the narrative, the more obvious it became that you had already earned a reputation that their stories couldn't touch. The truth of your survival overshadowed the fiction of their intentions, leaving them exposed and ineffective. Number 7, they wanted validation. Instead, they got a mirror to their insecurity. They went into it thinking they were in control. They expected that by questioning others, they would find allies who would confirm their negativity, applaud their exposure of you, and validate their feelings of superiority. But what happened was the exact opposite. Every person they approached became an unwitting mirror, reflecting back not their story about you, but the deep insecurity they carried themselves. Instead of building credibility for their accusations, they were forced to confront the obvious contrast between their bitterness and the respect you had earned. Every compliment about you, every story of your integrity, every acknowledgement of your patience and resilience, all pointed directly at the flaws in their own approach. They were expecting validation, but the universe handed them self-awareness, whether they were ready or not. Their envy became louder than their words. People could see it, sense it, and recognize it, even in the smallest gestures. The more they tried to push an anti-you narrative, the more it revealed that their battle wasn't with you, it was with themselves. Their frustration, their obsession, and their need to convince others only exposed a glaring emptiness inside them. They weren't prepared for the lessons their own actions would teach. Their strategy, meant to undermine you, ended up highlighting the imbalance in their character. Every lie they spun, every insinuation they planted, only bounced back to them in the form of clarity. Their insecurities, hidden beneath layers of anger and bitterness, became the story everyone could see. In the end, they got exactly what they deserved. No validation, no applause, just a clear reflection of their own shortcomings. Their attempts to diminish you didn't just fail, they turned into a public demonstration of who they really are. And the irony is undeniable. While they focused on you, the true exposure was themselves. The mirror doesn't lie, and neither did the reactions of those who witnessed the truth. Number 8, they forgot you don't need to defend a name that defends itself. They believed that in order to control your story, you would need to fight back. They assumed that silence meant weakness, that restraint meant vulnerability, and that a lack of response was an invitation to attack. What they didn't realize is that your reputation has always operated on a different level, a level that doesn't require your constant presence to prove its weight. Your name carries authority because it is rooted in real actions, real integrity, and real influence. It exists independently of the noise created by those trying to drag it down. When they went around trying to collect evidence, what they found wasn't validation for their envy. It was proof of your impact. Every story people told about you, every compliment, every acknowledgement of your consistency, your support, and your resilience, all spoke louder than any counter-narrative they could create. They assumed that reputation was fragile, but they forgot that a name built on truth doesn't break under pressure. It endures. You didn't have to respond, clarify, or defend yourself because your legacy had already been established. The people who truly matter had already experienced your character firsthand. They had seen your discipline, your honesty, your strength, and your reliability. Your actions had done the talking long before your enemies thought they had the chance to rewrite the narrative. Each person they questioned ended up reinforcing what had been quietly understood for years. Your credibility is unshakable. The irony is striking. While your enemies worked tirelessly to undermine you, they were only illuminating the reach and permanence of your reputation. Their attempts at destruction became a spotlight, showing just how far your name had traveled and how deeply it had resonated. You didn't need to intervene. Your legacy intervened on your behalf. Every compliment, every testimony, every acknowledgement of your character became a silent rebuttal to their schemes. In trying to attack you, they highlighted what they couldn't touch: the respect, admiration, and influence you've earned. Your reputation doesn't need defending because it has always been self-sustaining, living in the hearts and memories of those who recognize real value when they see it. Number 9, their narrative failed because it didn't match the data people already had about you. They underestimated how human perception really works. People don't just absorb stories. They compare those stories to what they've already seen, heard, and experienced. Your enemies were banking on the idea that a dramatic lie would overshadow years of truth, but reality doesn't bend that easily. People keep mental files. They track behavior over time, even when they don't say anything out loud. And when someone's accusations don't match the stored data, the mind automatically rejects the new information. Your data has always been consistent. People have seen you show up when needed, stay grounded when tensions rose, and carry yourself with a type of steadiness that doesn't require an audience. They've watched you handle conflict without being messy, setbacks without seeking pity, and success without becoming arrogant. This is the pattern they know. This is the evidence they've seen firsthand. So when your enemies came in with stories that contradicted everything people already knew, the disconnect was immediate. Meanwhile, the data your enemies carried spoke volumes too, but not in their favor. Their tone, their resentment, their sudden obsession with painting you in a certain light, everything about their behavior revealed their real motives. Their claims didn't align with people's memories of you. They aligned perfectly with the emotional instability they've shown for years. That inconsistency made their narrative collapse before it even had a chance to stand. Humans naturally trust patterns over claims. When someone has behaved the same way over long periods of time, that track record becomes the truth people rely on. Your record reflected reliability. Theirs reflected bitterness. Your credibility built itself slowly and quietly. Their accusations were rushed and fueled by insecurity. That imbalance made the truth shine through without effort. No matter how passionately they tried to twist the story, people could feel the mismatch. And that mismatch exposed them instantly. Their narrative didn't fail because it lacked detail. It failed because it lacked alignment with reality. And when the truth and the lie are placed side by side, people always choose the version that makes sense. They chose you. They rejected them. Number 10. They didn't expect people to have the courage to speak highly of you to their face. They assumed that fear was stronger than honesty, that intimidation would silence anyone who might defend you. They believed that when your name came up, people would hesitate, fumble, or find a safe way to avoid contradicting them. They imagined their presence alone would bend opinions, make people second-guess themselves, and give credibility to whatever negative story they tried to push. What they didn't anticipate was that your influence had already planted courage in the hearts of those around you. When confronted, people didn't stumble or mumble. They spoke clearly, confidently, and without hesitation about who you truly are. They shared your strengths, your consistency, and the impact you've had in ways that left no room for doubt. Each word they spoke chipped away at the false narrative your enemies tried to build, exposing not just the truth about you, but also the weakness in those who sought to diminish it. It was a painful awakening for them. They realized that their attempts at control were meaningless against the respect and admiration you had earned. Their intimidation tactics didn't quiet voices. They amplified the contrast between your reputation and their envy. Every compliment delivered in their presence acted like a spotlight on your accomplishments and character, highlighting just how futile their efforts had been. The irony is undeniable. In trying to silence praise, they ended up drawing attention to it. In trying to undermine your credibility, they ended up reinforcing it. The more they tried to manipulate, the more people publicly confirmed what they already knew in private. You are someone whose presence commands respect, whose actions speak louder than threats, and whose influence cannot be dimmed by fear or intimidation. Anyone who attempts to pull your name down inadvertently proves the strength of your legacy. In their effort to diminish you, they revealed how brightly you shine. Their failure became undeniable because truth is resilient, admiration is bold, and courage, once inspired, is unstoppable. Number 11. Their attempt to isolate you backfired. Now they're the ones standing alone. They thought they were orchestrating a social exile for you, a quiet little campaign where they'd pull people aside, whisper their poison, and slowly turn the room against you. In their mind, it would be a clean sweep. One by one, people would detach from you, avoid you, question you, doubt you. They imagined watching you stand alone while they basked in the illusion of power. But here's the twist they never saw coming. People weren't evaluating you, they were evaluating them. Every whisper exposed their bitterness. Every story exposed their obsession. Every attempt to isolate you revealed how deeply threatened they were by your presence, your growth, and the respect you carried effortlessly. Instead of turning people away from you, they turned people away from themselves. Because humans naturally pull back from drama. They withdraw from people who constantly have something negative to say. They become cautious around individuals who seem too eager to destroy someone else's reputation. Because those are the same people who eventually betray everyone. People may not always say it out loud, but they recognize desperation when they see it. And your enemies were radiating desperation. Meanwhile, your authenticity did the opposite. It drew people in. Your consistency, your track record, your quiet strength. Those became anchors. People remembered how you made them feel. They remembered your sincerity, your kindness, your reliability. You didn't need to convince anyone of who you are. Your life had already done that work. So while they were busy plotting your isolation, life was busy exposing theirs. They slowly became the person nobody trusted, nobody confided in, nobody wanted to associate with. Their bitterness made their circle shrink. Their envy made their support system evaporate. Their lies created a vacuum around them, not around you. And now, the truth is undeniable. You're surrounded by respect. They're surrounded by the consequences of their own behavior. Your name continued opening doors because it carries value. Their behavior slammed doors shut because it carries corruption. In trying to leave you alone, they taught the world who actually deserved to stand alone. And it wasn't you. Number 12. They wanted proof. You're a fraud. They received proof. You're a blessing. They went on a mission convinced they'd uncover something scandalous about you. In their mind, all they needed was one person, just one, who would say, yes, that's true about them, or I always suspected something off. They were hungry for confirmation, ready to collect any scrap of negativity that could validate their resentment. But the deeper they dug, the more the opposite happened. People didn't just fail to agree with their narrative. They shut it down with stories of how you changed their lives for the better. They expected whispers of doubt. Instead, they heard testimonies of gratitude. People shared how you encouraged them when they were struggling, how you treated them with fairness when no one else did, how your presence made them feel safer, stronger, or seen. They heard about the advice you gave that shifted someone's entire path. They heard about moments where you showed compassion without needing recognition. They heard about the ways you quietly uplifted people without broadcasting any of it. To their surprise, every conversation turned into a reminder of how rare your spirit actually is. It irritated them because they weren't prepared to face the truth. Your impact is not something a lie can erase. They wanted proof that you were fraudulent, but the more they investigated, the more they realized you have been sowing seeds of goodness for years. And those seeds grew into evidence of your integrity, your character, your heart. Evidence they couldn't rewrite, evidence they couldn't manipulate, evidence they couldn't silence. Instead of dirt, they found depth. Instead of weakness, they found wisdom. Instead of flaws they could exploit, they found people proudly standing behind your name. And that's when it hit them. The reason their lies never stuck is because your life story has already been authenticated by countless people who know your true character. They went looking for proof you were false. Life handed them proof you were a blessing, too impactful to erase, too genuine to distort, and too loved to be torn down. Number 13. They thought people would match their energy, but people matched your legacy. They assumed the energy they put out, the bitterness, the jealousy, the constant comparisons, would be contagious. They thought that when they spread their narrative, people would mirror it, jump on their side, and reinforce their false perception of you. They were confident that negativity has a way of multiplying, and they expected it to snowball against you. But what they didn't account for is the power of legacy. Your energy, built over years of consistent actions and true impact, outweighs any manufactured drama they try to create. People remember real experiences. They remember the times you offered help when no one else would. They remember the patience you showed in moments others would have lost temper. They remember the lessons you've quietly taught through your actions, the doors you've opened for others, the encouragement you've given without expecting anything in return. Your legacy is tangible. It is measured in trust, gratitude, and respect. Their gossip, on the other hand, is fleeting and hollow. Every person they questioned reflected this truth without even realizing it. Instead of echoing the resentment, they spoke of your integrity, your generosity, your growth, your unwavering commitment to doing what's right. Every answer they gave acted as a counterweight to the lies, a subtle yet undeniable proof that your reputation cannot be shaken by envy. While your enemies were busy fueling their drama, people were silently standing on the foundation you built, affirming that your impact extends far beyond what their petty tactics could ever touch. The more they tried to push their energy onto others, the more it bounced back, highlighting the contrast between who you are and who they pretend to be. People didn't match their bitterness, they matched your legacy. And that's what hurts them the most. Every compliment, every story, every acknowledgement of your character served as a reminder. No amount of envy or gossip can outrun the weight of genuine, lived influence. Your reputation echoes further, resonates louder, and leaves a mark deeper than their resentment could ever reach. Number 14. The universe humiliated them publicly to show you how protected you really are. They thought their little scheme would play out smoothly. They believed people would blindly agree, nod along, and help them build a false case against you. They expected an easy victory, a crowd ready to cheer at the downfall they fantasized about. But life has a strange way of flipping the script at the exact moment someone thinks they're in control. Instead of people joining them, everyone stepped back, giving them just enough space to fall flat on their own face. When they tried to spin their story, hoping others would validate it, they were met with confusion, disagreement, and even laughter. People corrected them right there on the spot. Some contradicted them without hesitation. Others exposed details that completely dismantled their narrative. They were so sure they'd be supported that they didn't prepare for the possibility of being publicly shut down. The humiliation hit harder because they walked into it with confidence, only to be met with reality. Your truth stands, even when you're not in the room. And the beauty of it all? You didn't lift a finger. You didn't argue. You didn't defend. You didn't even know half of what they were planning. Yet everything they attempted fell apart, not because you fought back, but because the universe doesn't let lies flourish when someone has earned divine protection. Your energy carries receipts. Your character carries evidence. Your journey carries weight that no rumor can compete with. They looked desperate because they were desperate. They didn't realize that the harder they tried to drag your name, the clearer their intentions became. People saw the envy. They saw the obsession. They saw the insecurity spilling out in every word. The contrast between your grounded presence and their frantic attempts to destroy you was too loud to ignore. In the end, they didn't expose you, they exposed themselves. Life made sure everyone saw the difference between authenticity and chaos. And their public embarrassment wasn't punishment, it was proof. Proof that you're shielded. Proof that truth always outruns deception. Proof that the universe doesn't play when it comes to someone whose character has already been validated by their actions. You were protected without having to move. They were exposed without anyone lifting a hand. That's the power you walk with. Conclusion. Chosen ones, the story isn't just about what your enemies tried to do. It's about what they couldn't do. Every whisper, every lie, every attempt to manipulate, intimidate, or isolate you has not only failed, but has actually highlighted the undeniable truth. Your presence, your character, your energy, and your legacy are untouchable. They went looking for flaws, and instead they revealed their own obsession. They tried to sway opinions, and instead they showcased how deeply respected and admired you already are. They aimed to bury you in doubt, yet they became the ones exposed, humbled, and publicly contradicted. Every point in this journey proves the same reality. The world sees what truly matters. People remember what you survived, how you lifted others, and the consistency of your strength and discipline. They recognize authenticity over manufactured drama. They remember the energy you put out, the doors you've opened, the lessons you've silently taught, and the legacy you've built, not the jealousy or bitterness of those trying to diminish you. And while your enemies scrambled to manipulate and control, life unfolded perfectly, protecting you, elevating your truth, and revealing them for exactly who they are. This isn't just a story of vindication. It's a story of justice without force, of recognition without argument, and of influence that moves quietly, but undeniably. Your name, your journey, and your impact speak louder than any rumor, any lie, or any envy ever could. You don't have to fight for what is already real. You don't have to prove what has already been witnessed. The world acknowledges it for you, and in the process, those who try to drag you down end up confirming your greatness without even realizing it. So hold your head high, chosen ones. Recognize your worth, embrace your legacy, and never let anyone's envy shake your certainty. The truth always travels faster than lies. Your character always leaves a footprint, and your influence will always outshine their attempts at manipulation. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss another deep truth. Like this video if it opened your eyes. Comment below to share your story or what shocked you the most, and share it with someone who needs to see that the truth always prevails. Your support helps us continue revealing these extraordinary realities and honoring the power of the chosen ones. God bless you.
One, if you are hearing this right now, it is because something you did in a moment of quiet faith broke a seal that has held for 20 centuries. You will not find that in any book or any sermon, because what I am sharing with you tonight has been guarded in silence since the days when the early church walked the earth with gifts so powerful that entire regions transformed overnight. Those gifts did not expire. They did not fade. They were deliberately sealed by God and placed into sacred dormancy, carried silently through generation after generation of souls who felt the weight of them but could never access what they held. You are one of those souls. You have spent your life sensing that you carry something enormous inside a body that does not yet know how to hold it. You walk into spaces and the atmosphere rearranges itself around you, and you have never told anyone because you knew how it would sound. That is not imagination. That is the dormant gift pressing against the seal, And in this hour, for the first time in 2,000 years, God is confirming that the seal is ready to break. Not because the world has earned it, because you have. I hear the Spirit saying the activation has already begun in you, and by the end of this message, you will know the name of what you carry, the ancient reason it was sealed, and the specific practice that completes the activation your faithfulness started. Do not leave. What has waited 20 centuries will not wait again. Now, before I go any further, I need to ask something of you. If there is noise around you right now, silence it. If you are around other people, this message is not for them. What I am about to speak over your life requires your full presence, because it has waited 2,000 years to reach the person hearing it right now, and I will not let anything steal what God has timed for this exact moment. Take one real breath, not a shallow one, a breath that reaches the bottom of your lungs, and as you exhale, know this. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. This moment was always coming, and now it is here. Let me tell you something that will frame everything you are about to hear. There is a word in the original Greek language of the New Testament. The word is charisma. Most people today hear that word, and they think of a personality type. They think of someone who walks into a room and captivates everyone. Someone charming, someone magnetic. But that is not what the word means. Not even close. When the original writers of Scripture used the word charisma, they were describing something so specific and so powerful that it terrified the Roman Empire. Charisma, in its true original meaning, refers to a divine endowment, a spiritual gift placed inside a human being by God Himself. Not something you earn, not something you develop through study or practice, something that is deposited into you before you take your first breath, woven into the very fabric of your spirit, the way DNA is woven into your cells. It is a capacity that does not come from this world, and it was never meant to be dormant. Let me be clear about something because this matters. A spiritual gift is not a talent. Talent is something you sharpen over time. You practice piano for 10 years and you become talented. You study medicine for a decade and you become skilled, but a spiritual gift operates in a completely different dimension. It is an ability that shows up before you are trained. It is a knowing that arrives before you have studied. It is a sensitivity to things that no textbook can teach you to feel. Some of you listening right now have had moments where you knew something was going to happen before it happened, and you had no logical explanation for it. Some of you have walked into a room and felt something shift in the air, felt the weight of a situation that no one else in that room could feel, and you wondered if something was wrong with you. Nothing was wrong with you. What you were experiencing was the dormant gift inside you pressing against the walls of its containment. It was trying to activate. And every time you felt that and pushed it down because the world told you it was not real, every time you dismissed it as anxiety or overthinking or being too sensitive, you were actually suppressing the very thing God placed inside you for a purpose you have not yet fully understood. Now here is where it gets deep. In the earliest days of the faith, these gifts were not hidden. They were not whispered about in private. They operated openly. The first generation of believers carried spiritual gifts that reshaped the known world. We are talking about ordinary people, fishermen and tax collectors and widows, who suddenly carried abilities that defied every natural law. Discernment so sharp they could perceive the intention behind a stranger's words before the stranger finished speaking. A healing presence so tangible that sick people recovered simply by being in the same room. Knowledge of events happening in distant cities that no messenger had delivered. These were not metaphors written by poets trying to inspire future generations. These were documented realities that historians, even hostile ones, could not deny. And then something happened. Within a few generations, those gifts began to disappear from public record. Not slowly, not gradually. It was as if someone turned off a switch. Theologians have argued about this for centuries. One school says the gifts were only meant for the apostolic era and ceased when the last apostle died. They call it cessationism. Another school says the gifts never stopped. They just went underground because the institutional church could not control what it could not explain. But there is a third possibility that almost nobody discusses, because it challenges the way we think about how God operates across time. What if the gifts did not cease, and they did not simply go underground? What if God deliberately sealed them? What if He withdrew specific spiritual capacities from the general population and placed them into a protected dormancy, hidden inside a very particular line of souls, carried across 20 centuries like a seed wrapped in stone, waiting not for a date on the calendar, but for the right carrier to emerge? That is the truth I need you to sit with right now, and I know it is heavy. I know part of you is already asking the question that every chosen one asks when they first hear this. Is this really about me? Is this really possible? Let me answer that by showing you something you can verify with your own experience right now, because if what I am telling you is true, if you really are carrying a dormant spiritual gift that has been sealed for 2,000 years, then there will be signs, not vague signs, not generic signs that could apply to anyone. Specific, observable, daily signs that you have been experiencing for as long as you can remember, and that no one has ever been able to explain to your satisfaction. The first sign is a tiredness that sleep does not fix. And I'm not talking about being busy or working long hours or not getting enough rest. I am talking about a bone-deep exhaustion that has nothing to do with your schedule. You could sleep 10 hours and wake up feeling like you ran a marathon in the spiritual realm while your body was lying still. This tiredness is not medical. You have probably been to doctors who told you everything looks fine. And it does look fine, because the source of this fatigue is not your body. It is the weight of an unactivated gift pressing on a container that was not designed to hold it in dormant form for this long. Think of it this way. Imagine carrying a backpack that weighs 40 pounds, but the backpack is invisible. No one else can see it. No one else can feel it. They look at you and wonder why you are so tired when your life does not look that hard on the outside. But you know, you feel it every single day. And what I am telling you right now is that backpack is not a burden. It is a gift that has not yet been unwrapped. The second sign is emotional waves that arrive with no trigger. One moment you are fine, going about your day, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, tears. Not sadness, not grief about something specific, just this overwhelming surge of emotion that passes through you like a wave and then recedes, leaving you wondering what just happened. Sometimes it is tears. Sometimes it is a sudden, unexplainable peace that washes over you in the middle of chaos. Sometimes it is a deep, aching longing for something you cannot name, like homesickness for a place you have never been. These emotional waves are not hormonal imbalance. They are not a sign that you are unstable. They are the dormant gift inside you, responding to spiritual frequencies that your conscious mind cannot yet interpret. The gift is alive inside you. It is trying to communicate, and because the seal has not yet fully broken, the only language it has right now is raw emotion. The third sign is dreams that are more vivid than waking life. You have had dreams that felt more real than the room you woke up in. Dreams where you saw places you have never visited, with a clarity that made you question which reality was the real one. Dreams where someone spoke to you and you woke up with the exact words still ringing in your ears. Some of you have dreamed things that later happened. Not approximately, exactly. And you told no one because you knew how it would sound. You knew the world would call it coincidence. But you knew it was not coincidence. You knew it because you felt it in a place deeper than logic. A place where the gift lives and where the gift speaks in the only language the seal still allows. The fourth sign is a changed tolerance for things that used to be normal. Conversations that once felt fine now feel shallow and draining. Environments that used to be comfortable now feel suffocating. Television shows that used to entertain you now feel hollow and pointless. You have noticed that your circle has been shrinking, not because you became arrogant or antisocial, but because your spiritual frequency is shifting, and the things that vibrate at the old frequency simply cannot hold your attention anymore. People around you may have noticed this, and some of them have been offended by it. They think you are pulling away from them. They think you are changing in a way that feels like rejection. But what is actually happening is that the dormant gift inside you is beginning to calibrate your environment, clearing away everything that does not match the frequency required for full activation. This is not something you are choosing. It is something happening to you, and it is a sign that the seal is weakening. The fifth sign is something you have probably never told another living soul. When you walk into a room, the energy shifts. You have felt this. You have walked into a space and felt the atmosphere change, felt people respond to your presence in ways that have nothing to do with what you said or how you look. Sometimes the room gets lighter. Sometimes it gets heavier. Sometimes arguments that were happening before you arrived suddenly quiet down. You have noticed it, but you have never claimed it because it sounds insane. It sounds like the kind of thing a narcissist would say. But this is not narcissism. This is the spiritual signature of an unactivated gift, leaking through the cracks of a seal that was never meant to hold this long. The gift is so powerful that even in dormant form, it alters the atmosphere simply by being in the room. And the sixth sign is patterns that repeat in ways that cannot be statistical coincidence. Numbers that follow you. 11:11, 3:33, 4:44. Songs that play at the exact moment you needed to hear those exact words. Conversations you overhear between strangers that answer the exact question you were silently asking God that morning. You have been surrounded by signs and synchronicities that stack on top of each other so consistently that dismissing them as coincidence requires more faith than believing they are real. And they are real. They are the language of the sealed gift, trying to reach your conscious mind through the only channels still available. Now I want you to count. How many of those 6 signs did you recognize in your own life? If you recognized 1 or 2, pay close attention to what comes next. If you recognize 3 or more, then what I am about to tell you is going to rearrange the way you understand your entire existence. Because those signs are not random. They are not independent of each other. They are all expressions of one single reality. You are carrying a sealed spiritual gift that has been dormant in the human race for 2,000 years. And every sign you just recognized is that gift trying to wake up inside you. If your spirit just confirmed that, if something deep inside you shifted when you heard those words, I want you to type the words "I carry it" in the comments below. Not as a performance, as a declaration. Because the first step of activation is acknowledgement. The gift needs to know that you know it is there. Now, before I go deeper, I need to tell you something important about what is coming in this message, because what I have shown you so far, the signs, the recognition, the understanding that you are carrying something ancient and powerful, This alone would be enough for most messages, but we are nowhere close to finished. What you have just heard is the first layer. Beneath it, there are truths that go so deep, they will explain every painful season, every lonely night, every unexplainable experience you have had since childhood. I am going to show you the original ancient name of the power that lives inside you, and why that name was erased from common knowledge. I am going to walk you through the exact reason God sealed this gift for 20 centuries, and what it has to do with your specific bloodline. I am going to give you a framework with a name you will never forget.